Hi, everyone. Welcome back to New York Energy Week 2024, the epicenter of global energy innovation, where industry leaders, visionaries, and pioneers gather to shape the future. This landmark event, now in its 11th year, unites the brightest minds to forge new paths and challenge the conventional boundaries of energy technology and sustainability. So, thank you for joining us here on the One Business World platform for our transformative journey that promises to inspire, empower, and catalyze groundbreaking advancements in the energy sector. Kicking things off for us today is Deputy Commissioner and New York City Chief Fleet Officer, Commissioner Todd Kerman, and his topic is Fleet Sustainability Achieving 50 by 25, NYSE Fleet. Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for joining us here on New York Energy Week. Welcome.
Good morning, Glenn. Great to be with you.
All right, let me hand it off over to you, and we look forward to your presentation and your discussions.
Okay, well, thank you very much on behalf of Mayor Eric Adams and our Commissioner at DCAS, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, John Pinnock. It's great to begin this beautiful day with you and talk about an extraordinarily important subject, which is sustainability in the transportation sector, and how we can make really big environmental goals and then meet them and achieve them. So I'm Keith Kerman. I'm the Chief Fleet Officer for the City of New York and a Deputy Commissioner at DCAS. And I manage the city's fleet. So what is the city's fleet? We are your police cars, your sanitation trucks, your fire trucks, little less than 30,000 assets, add in 10,000 contracted school buses and some other public organizations like the New York Housing Authority that we support. And it's one of the largest fleets in the United States, probably in the 10 to 12 range, the largest fleet straight up in the US. And of course, you can't walk any street in New York City without our vehicles and great city employees in action, serving, securing, cleaning, supporting the public. Just by the numbers, constitutionally, we're a town fleet, but we're a pretty big town fleet. So 28,374 units, 57 agencies, enormous fueling program. We're actually probably the third largest gas station operator in New York State. 1,678 full-time staff, including 1,368 mechanics, who are really the core stalwart to maintain and keep our vehicles operating 24/7. 97 garages, 250,000 work orders. 175 other staff who work as what we call transportation coordinators in all the agencies working on logistics issues and fleet issues. We're going to talk about sustainability here, so I'm going to talk more about this, but 21,000 vehicles operating alternative fuels, over 5,000 electric vehicles, the largest electric fleet in New York State, and we're going to talk about renewable diesel and more. Annual spend last year, a little bit less than $1.4 billion. $672 million in just buying specialized trucks and equipment alone. One of the challenges, claims, over $175 million in risk in claims. So crash management, safety, a huge important issue for us. Not what I'm going to talk about today, but hugely important in what we do and what we're working on. And then I mentioned the very large school bus program. I'm going to talk about sustainability in the fleet, but as you may know, we have both under local law and under state law, goals to electrify the entire school bus industry in New York State and New York City by 2035. So in May of this year, we released and available publicly to all of you, and I'm sure we'll share my presentation and you can check it out, or just put in Clean Fleet, New York City Clean Fleet Update in Google. We released, according to Executive Order 41 of 2019, our Clean Fleet Update Report. So in 2015, New York City committed as part of the Paris Climate Accords to 50% greenhouse gas reduction by 2025 in the New York City governmental fleet. So one of the big fleets in America, and of course, one that is focused on emergency services. Right. My three biggest clients are the New York City Police Department, Department of Sanitation, and the Fire Department. So one could reasonably argue that would be the last place that you would try to do a major sustainability, a major electrification program. We're trying to make it the first place and are making it the first place. So we announced this report In 2015, we said we're going to do 50 by 25. We announced in May that we are achieving 50 by 25. And we did that at our fleet show out at Flushing Meadow Park. And every May we do a fleet show in Flushing Meadow Park. So I hope you'll all link me in at Keith Kerman and participate in those in the future. We set a 3-part plan, and it's consistent with recommendations that have been made, internationally by the Panel for Climate Change and by many others about how to approach sustainability. So it's not a, all your eggs in one basket approach. Replace fossil diesel fuel with biofuels, and we're going to talk about that. Implement hybrids and efficiencies, right? We're a hybrid vehicle, we're an efficient, a better designed vehicle, a smaller vehicle, fewer vehicles can be achieved, and do that. And then electrify everything we can as soon as we can. And so we implemented these 3 strategic approaches, and we've stayed focused on them. And we were able to get ourselves in place where 50 by 25 will be achieved. So let me go into what that looks like. I like numbers, so basic numbers, and then we'll get into the details. 5,100 electric vehicles, that'll be closer to 5,500 by the end of the summer. We work in a fiscal year, so by June 30th, which is this week, all kinds of vehicles and the new electric vehicles have to be delivered. And fortunately, most of those are showing up on time. That's the end of the fiscal year is always a big week for us. We cut the ribbon out in Hunts Point in the Bronx on our 2,000th electric charger, the largest charging network in New York State, really one of the largest single operated charging networks in the United States. Also have 4,300 hybrid vehicles. And while we do early testing and evaluation of electric police cars, and I'm going to show you a video on that later on, we're implementing hybrid police cars as kind of our core police vehicle, as we also then look to implement electric in the future. Over 21,000 alternative fuel vehicles, 10 million, in fact, that number is already dated. It's up to 12 million gallons of renewable diesel. I'm going to talk about what is renewable diesel. And it's a really remarkable, complete replacement, a fuel that can completely replace fossil diesel. We also, under Mayor Adams, did fleet reduction. So we've reduced 2,600 vehicles actually since 2019. Reduced the amount of fuel that we're using by 5.4 million gallons. And that'll be even more as we do our reporting for the end of fiscal year 24 in July. And we're going to keep doing all of this. And this is going to achieve 50 by 25. Officially, the reporting for 50 by 25 will be part of the city's legally mandated greenhouse gas climate reporting. So technically, I guess you can't say you finished it until they report the fleet greenhouse gas inventory for 2025, which would be in 2026, right? So you have to complete 2025 at a certain technical level, but we're there. We did everything we said we're going to do, and we're there. So let me talk about renewable diesel. I'm not sure how many of you know what renewable diesel is, but since 2005, we've been using biodiesel. And biodiesel is essentially a farm and waste product. It can come from soybean oil, not soybean oil. We are not using the food. It can come from waste products like used cooking oil or waste animal fats, products of our eating habits, but all waste products. And it is converted biodiesel in a particular process called transesterification into a usable fuel. And we've been doing that since 2005. We began it at the New York City Parks Department. I ran park operations at that time. And we took the biodiesel initiatives, which were very successful, and brought them to every city agency. Every city agency for a decade has been using some level of biodiesel in all their trucks, police, fire, sanitation, everybody. There's a limitation to biodiesel, though, which is because of the technical properties of biodiesel, it usually can only be used in 20% or less blends. So when you use biodiesel, you're not tending to switch out all the fuel. You're tending to switch out a portion of it. And it usually be 20% in the warm weather months and even 5% only in the cold weather, because biodiesel has some cold weather properties. It'll gel up at higher temperatures. So if you're running a snow plowing operation, that's not a good thing. But there's a more advanced product using those same farm feedstocks. Currently, for renewable diesel, we only use all of our renewable diesel over 12 million gallons has been from either used cooking oil or waste animal fats, products that could just as likely be landfilled, waste products, and we're using them for our day-to-day fuel. But renewable diesel is manufactured to the same standards as regular diesel. The ASTM, for those who follow such things, is 975. You can Google that. It's basically the same fuel at an operating level, but at an environmental level, it's quite different. And actually, physically, it looks different, right? It's Sprite to Diet Coke, right? It's a clear liquid. It has no aromatics, no smell, and we do a little fun test of that in our offices at the Municipal building. And it achieves 60% or more greenhouse gas benefit through the production cycle, because this is basically reusing waste products. And we are now, so you know where we are, we're the first entity in the East Coast of the United States to replace out all fuel, pretty much the whole fleet on and off road, emergency and non-emergency, is completely using renewable diesel today. Few exceptions and some fire equipment, a small percentage that still use retail gas for logistical purposes, but 95% or more, and we are fully operating a renewable diesel. It's been incredibly successful. The fleet's running just great, and we are achieving enormous greenhouse gas benefit. The state of California is the main place where renewable diesel is used in the United States. And remarkably, over 55% of all fuel sold in the state of California, public and private, is renewable diesel today, with an expectation that by 2030, all of it will be. California has something called the Low Carbon Fuel Standard. It's essentially a carbon market that helps incentivize fleet electrification, incentivize charging systems for electric vehicles, and incentivize and create a market for renewable fuels like renewable diesel and biodiesel. There are efforts to create LCFS here in New York State, as well as in New Jersey. And those are things that we are following very closely. We hope everybody in this call will follow those and get engaged in those. California, Washington State, Oregon all have LCFS that has really been very successful in achieving their greenhouse gas environmental goals, moving the marketplace. New Mexico just established one. New York, New Jersey, some other East Coast states are looking at it now, and really we think it could be very impactful. We want to be the test case of what it can mean to have a low carbon fuel standard. You don't have to use diesel fuel at all anymore, anywhere. That is achievable today. It's being done in California. It's achievable in New York State. I want to mention one of the environmental benefits, kind of a remarkable one, and I said it before, but renewable diesel has no aromatics. It doesn't smell. So many of us, especially if you work in the fleet industry, become used to the pretty bad, unhealthy, and distasteful smell of diesel fuel. All of that's gone with renewable diesel. We do a little test here at the DCAS building where we have these two caps, these two bottles, and they both have perforated caps, and you can smell the fossil diesel. It's pretty bad. And you smell the renewable diesel, you don't smell anything. And that's also the experience in our garages. So enormous workplace health, workplace quality of life benefits, as well as the greenhouse gas benefits. So that's a core part of our environmental program. Then I want to talk about efficiencies, right? Because in any program that you are doing, whatever your approach to sustainability, the more efficient you operate your assets and your resources, the better. So one of the things we did under Mayor Adams' leadership was we reduced the size of the city fleet. The most sustainable and the safest vehicle is one you do not operate. And obviously, most of our vehicles are critical. Our ambulances, our fire trucks, our police emergency service units and tow trucks, our garbage trucks have to be out there on the road serving all of you every day. But where we could reduce vehicles, whether it's light duty cars or shared cars or low utilized cars, we did that. And we've achieved over 2,000 vehicle reductions. We did that on something that's a lot of fun and a topic maybe for another day, but we are one of the largest implementers of live vehicle telematics in the United States. This is a single shot, a dot for every vehicle of the vehicles that we track every single day, 24 hours a day, 28,500 to be exact. And I often joke about my job that there's a city vehicle just about every block in New York City at all times. We can now show that graphically everywhere you are. And I think most New Yorkers already know that because just look outside and you'll see a police car, a sanitation car. But we used our telematics, our intelligence, in this extraordinary tool that we run out of our kind of command center called the Fleet Office of Real-Time Tracking to reduce the size of the city fleet to achieve efficiencies. So I'm not going to go through all the aspects of the vehicle efficiency program, except to say it's an important part of what we're trying to do here. So we're reducing the number of on-road vehicles, reducing the amount of fuel that we're using. And that's incredibly important to these environmental efforts. In the end, what do we want to do is we want to get out of as much liquid fuel as possible and get out of all fossil fuel. And that's the approach. And we are really making a lot of progress in getting rid of all fossil fuel. And we'll report on that in July. But you're going to see dramatic reductions in fossil fuel with our renewable diesel program that's now fully in place. We're also buying more fuel efficient vehicles. So by local law, the city fleet, ever since 2005, has had to report on the EPA fuel economy of our new vehicles. Our CAFE equivalent, if you follow the corporate fuel economy standards of the United States, we have to report by local law 38 of 2005 on our CAFE equivalent. So across the last 6 years, our average fuel economy for new light duty vehicles, the exact vehicles tracked in the corporate fuel economy in the United States, has been over 100 miles per gallon. So we have this endless debate in the United States. Can we get to 40? Can we get to 50? It's too much. We have been operating and buying vehicles at over 100 miles per gallon by EPA standards for 6 years now. And we do not buy specially designed government vehicles. We buy from companies you all know, like Ford and GM and Chevy and Toyota and Mitsubishi. We just buy their fuel efficient and electric versions. So the ability to dramatically improve fuel economy is already there for all of us. You just have to choose to do so. And they're great cars. They're great cars. Anyone who knows nothing about electric vehicles, go drive one. We are greatly increasing the amount of electric that we're using to power transportation. And then finally, I want to mention, we are one of the very few organizations that's run electric vehicles over an entire lifetime. We've had electric vehicles now, about 400 Bolts and Leafs over 10 years. They're over their normal lifespans. And so we've reported, and this is public reporting that Axios reported on the lifetime maintenance. And it was extraordinary. 60 to 70% maintenance improvement. So the theory on electric vehicles is, and there isn't much to fix. You have no engine, no transmission. You have regenerative braking, so you have a lot of pressure off the brakes. No fuel lines, no catalytic converters to steal. If you follow some of the trends in our industry, and that's all resulted in real enormous maintenance and breakdown benefits, resiliency in hot weather days. Right now, I can tell you, it's been a very, very hot summer already and late spring, and vehicle out of service for our gas vehicles and diesel vehicles is up because of overheating and transmission issues, right? Electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, you don't have that problem. So enormous amount of efficiency. So and that gets us to electrification. Our long-term goal is zero emissions, right? We can't get to that everywhere, right? There aren't electric options for plow trucks yet, or a lot of our fire equipment. But where we can electrify, we will. So Mayor Adams signed in October of 2023 a new local law, 140, that calls for the city fleet to go to all electric for light and medium duty units by 2035, for everything heavy and specialized by 2038, if available in the market. And while our ambition is clear, we want an all electric fleet, the law also recognizes and has many exemptions if that's not possible. So in the end, right now, there's not a viable truck in the world that could plow our snow in the winter, right, to the standards and requirements of the Department of Sanitation. Now, we're hoping to see advancements in technology and for that to change, but you can't do what you can't do. So we're going to electrify everything we can as the market becomes available. We have exemptions in the law where at a technical level, or if it's extreme cost, we can exempt. But we're making a lot of progress. We're at 5,100 electric vehicles now. We'll be up to probably 5,500, I think, by the end of the summer or early fall as we get these new vehicles that are coming in place. We're diversifying the types of electric vehicles. So here you have the first electric correction buses. I often say they're the first in the world. I don't know for sure if that's true. It's a big planet, but so if anybody knows of other correction buses that are being operated as all electric, let me know. Until such time as I'll say they're the first. Electric sweepers, electric enforcement vehicles, here with our terrific taxi commissioner, David Dew, showing off some of our electric enforcement for taxi industry. At the bottom right-hand corner is a canine emergency unit. For the canine units, the animal support and rescue dogs. This is now all electric. Better for the environment, and frankly, better for the health of these very important and noble animals who are saving lives. So I wanted to, as a last kind of presentation for you, show you a video on one of the more exciting aspects of what we're electrifying. The largest single component of the New York City fleet is law enforcement and police cars, most at NYPD, but not all. I showed you a taxi enforcement vehicle. So we tested this. Hopefully the sound is going to work. Glenn, you're going to let me know that everyone can hear the sound, but we'd like to show you a video now.
The color blue is often identified with police officers. It's an association that originates to the 19th century with the color of their uniforms. But here in New York, there's a new push for the NYPD to go green. Here's Chris Van Cleve.
Across New York City, the NYPD is going electric, adding nearly 200 Ford Mach-E's to patrol the streets, the nation's largest deployment of EVs as police cruisers.
Do you feel like this is just as capable of a police car as a gas-powered car?
I do, yeah. I think it drives just as good, if not better in some ways, than the gas-powered cars.
You're convinced that this has a future in policing?
I am, yes.
The NYPD has been going green for years. Starting in 2009, the department tried out modified civilian hybrids, then lobbied Ford to make a true hybrid police car. Those units are about 40% more fuel efficient, saving 700 gallons of gas per year per vehicle. Now this pilot project takes civilian EVs and retrofits them for police work.
As we make this big move to electrification, law enforcement is going to be front and center.
New York City's chief fleet officer, Todd Kerman, is overseeing the addition of 1,000 new EVs a year.
You don't drive a police car the way you drive most normal fleet vehicles.
Absolutely. New York City's trying to and going to electrify in probably the toughest place to do it. Emergency services, law enforcement, sanitation, snow removal. And it's going to have challenges.
The NYPD test program is aimed at identifying some of those challenges and places where improvements can be made.
Our goal now is to gain as much data as we can to hopefully one day introduce these as 100% electric vehicles down the road.
Ford, the largest maker of police cars, expects that transition to be gradual.
It will be a slower progression to electric than it is for, a retail customer to adjust to, just because a vehicle is used for a police officer in a much different way.
The Mach-E has more horsepower, more torque, more advanced safety features, a faster 0 to 60 time, and faster braking than any other vehicle in the NYPD fleet. Something we experienced firsthand on the department's test track. Perhaps a preview of policing's electric future. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, New York.
Okay, so that's where we are heading. It's really exciting stuff. And I'm going to send out this deck to everybody. And so I have some other supporting slides, some other additional information, and a fun educational video. I'm not going to share that today, but if you get the deck, there's a fun educational video that we developed when we achieved our 5,000th electric car. I still think there's a lot of work that has to be done to educate the general public about these vehicles. So many people who don't like electric vehicles have never driven an electric vehicle and don't like them because they see something on TV, but have actually no idea about them. And, electric vehicles are a product. And, one of the reasons I'm very bullish on them is they tend to argue their own case. So most people, once they get used to them, start to understand them, kind of want one. And that's been my experience as a large fleet operator. So with that, again, I just want to thank you for letting us talk about our environmental efforts. If there's any theme that we have, is that these big environmental ambitions that are so important to us as we go through this extraordinary heat wave not just in New York, but throughout the country. And I remind everybody that breaking heat records is not like breaking sports records. It's not a good thing. And you can only break so many heat records before, really serious problems emerge. So we think that our fleet program is an example of how these big environmental initiatives can be launched, can be achieved, and can be done so in a resilient way, and while not undermining operations, not undermining costs. So with that, Glenn, I'll give it back to you, and thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner. Wow, what a great presentation. Yes, and the sound was fine. No worries on that. It came across really well. On one of your early slides, that was the sharpest looking police car with the green on it that I've seen in a very long time. So congratulations. Congratulations on all of your wonderful work here in this area and all that you're doing with DCAS. It's very, very impressive. It's funny, you said it was constitutionally you're known as a town fleet. That's with a very large capital T. Because that was some amazing stats that you had on one of the early slides. Hey, on that though, I wanted to follow up. You mentioned Hunts Point as the charging. Is that how big is that? Is that like an entire yard of like charging stations? How does that work?
Yeah, so the new there's a lot of work that's being done in Department of Transportation is leading a lot of environmental work as part of the Hunts Point plan. Our component of it that we announced just a few weeks ago with the Borough President of the Bronx and with our commissioner were 6 new fast chargers at the Hunts Point wastewater treatment plant for DEP. And that happened to be our 2000th charger, and it's serving as an interagency hub of charging. So all agencies, city government agencies, can access those chargers and use them to implement electric vehicles in Hunts Point. Obviously, we want to make sure that environmental justice communities are the first to get electric cars, the first to get chargers. And so that Hunts Point installation is a really important one for us. I will say that we are also offering, where we can, as DCAS and for the city fleet, public charging. So we just opened up a 5 fast charger site open to the general public at the World's Fair Marina, the city field park, that open parking lot that's open 24 hours a day.
I know where it is. Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to be in the park 24 hours a day as an ex-parkie, but I don't know that anyone stops you off the Grand Central. And I will tell you, it's incredibly busy. So, what I've actually heard from the city employees is that you have lines of taxis up 3 a line, and sometimes it's hard for the city fleet to actually use them. But it shows that there's enormous demand. And we're going to keep doing that wherever we can, and mostly in partnership with New York City Parks, who has those public parking lots. So we're already working on our next kind of big site. We have charging at Randall's Island. We have it at South and Midland Beach. We have it at DCAS's Storehouse. We have it at the World's Fair Marina. And we're going to keep putting out fast charging for the general public where we can. Obviously, we build a lot of charging for NYPD, at precincts, at One Police Plaza. I can't open it up to the general public. Our sanitation garages, which is a big focus of ours as we try to electrify our sanitation fleet assets. I can't open those to the general public. But where I can, and Parks has been a great partner in that, we are doing that. And online, you can get that list at our DCAS website. You can get the whole list of those chargers.
That's great. The fact that, again, some of it is open to the public. That's a tremendous public service. And the World's Fair spot, you said taxis, right? You think of all the people, and I know they're not supposed to do this, all those taxis sitting on the shoulder of the Grand Central Parkway by LaGuardia Airport, right? And you're right over there. So to the extent that you've got electrified taxis over there, what a great spot to have that available.
And at reasonable prices. We're charging reimbursement rates. So we're not trying to make money off it. We have to reimburse our costs, but it's 30 cents per kilowatt hour peak, 25 cents off peak. So, compare that to the other rates out there in commercial charging. And I already know it compares pretty favorably. And so we're going to do it as much as we can. The Department of Transportation, and I always let my sister agencies speak for themselves, but is also working on a lot of charging for the general public as well.
I mean, you look across the fleet itself and all the different types of vehicles you talked about, whether it was the street sweepers, even the dogs have gone electric, right? The canine unit is out there. Kind of makes me think of back when when Bob Dylan first came on, right? He was all about folk singing and acoustic guitar, and then the big change was Dylan went electric. And here you are doing it with all of these vehicles that, as you said, we see every moment of every day. And perhaps we see through them, but they're there. And what a great story. So please keep telling it, because it's a remarkable set of statistics you have out there, and some of the even on the efficiency side, the maintenance cost. That's an impressive statistic. 60 to 70% improvement on just maintenance costs. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, we've published, and it's out there, something called the Clean Fleet Transition Plan, and we published that in partnership with the United States Department of Transportation Volpe Center, Clean Fleet Transition Plan. So the New York City fleet is probably unique. I mean, it's unique in many ways, but we have 190 different types of vehicles, 120 on-road types, 70 off-road types, right? So everything from sedans and SUVs to passenger vans to police cars to bucket trucks to garbage trucks to dump trucks on the on-road side, and then snow melters, backhoes, tractors. Who knew we operate over 350 agricultural tractors, right? You know, you think we were a farm state. And we're trying to electrify and clean, whether in our biofuels program, in our electric or hybrid program, all of that. And one thing that, you know, and we're making a lot of progress. And one thing I like to remind everyone is we operate something of everything, except maybe those big monster mining trucks that are like, you know, the size of 20-story buildings, right? If we can clean up a fleet of this diversity that operates in an emergency services 24/7 environment, just about everybody can, right? So, you know, if your police car, neighborhood police car can be an electric Mach-E, then your car certainly can be electric. And so we're trying to make that argument that if we can do it here, it's the core New York principle. We can do it here, you can do it anywhere.
When you work with some of the manufacturers, like the video mentioned Ford being like the largest supplier of police cars, how much do you ever have conversations with them as to design, or is it more they're sending it out and then you guys are customizing it? Do you have any kind of relationship with the manufacturers in this particular area?
Constant. So and I will say, we have this fleet show in May. All the manufacturers, all the dealers, everyone's bringing out their newest and latest products. So we have a regular bi-weekly interagency meeting with all the agencies. We begin every meeting and have for 15 years with 2 vendor presentations, right? We work in a private sector industry, right? The fleet industry, we don't make the cars, we don't make the fuels, although I have some solar carports. I'm producing some energy on my own now, but fundamentally, we rely on the private sector and on private sector innovation and engagement to get the products that we want, the safer products, the more sustainable products, the more reliable products that meet our very unusual and important services. So we are in constant engagement with all the major manufacturers. Certainly Ford is the largest in the city fleet. I think it's about 11,000 assets, but Toyota, GM, Chevy, on the trucking side, Mack, Freightliner, Seagrave for the fire trucks. So we are in constant communication with them. They know that we want electric. They know we want safe. And I'm not here to talk about our safety agenda, but high vision trucks, intelligent speed assist, surround cameras, dealing with visual impairment on trucks as we clean trucks. And so we are in constant engagement. And we have some ability to move the market. One, we're a big fleet. 2, we represent certainly public fleets. I probably represent most commercial fleets. I'll accept that the Amazons of the world and some of the big, heavily capitalized large fleets have their own kind of operating mode. But we represent kind of what goes on in most public fleets and most smaller commercial fleets in America. And so we push heavily, and we don't just talk to the manufacturers and the dealers, we talk to other fleets. So I want every time Ford, GM, Toyota, Mitsubishi, every time they walk into any fleet operator in America, I want them to all be saying the same stuff. And so we're talking to fleet operators, but we're definitely talking to manufacturers, and we've made an enormous amount of progress. 15 years ago, Glenn, the most exciting thing, and it wasn't exciting, happening in the electric vehicle industry was the Who Killed the Electric Car video. Right? There's a documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car, right? So the most interesting thing happening was denoting and documenting the demise of the industry. right? Think about how far we have come now. Like now, the Super Bowl, it's all EV ads. That is a big change, and I hope it'll only grow from there.
No, it's congratulations. It's an amazing story that should continue to be told. Proof is in the pudding. You guys are hitting it right on the mark, and some outstanding work. And again, focusing on sustainability, the environment, public service. What great work. What great work. So Commissioner Keith Kerman, thank you for joining us here, kicking things off here on day 2 for New York Energy Week. Outstanding presentation. Congratulations on all your success. We look forward to staying in contact with you. If we can be helpful in any of your work, please reach out, okay?
Absolutely, Glenn. Thank you all, and have a great continued program.
All right, all the best today. Thank you. Take good care. See you next time.
Cheers.
Thanks.